What is up, Badger fans? We got Justin. This is UW After Dark. We do the call-in show all the time. Can't wait to get a bunch of people on. Listen, optimism level, let me know where you're at. Beat USC. Yeah, that's it, man. Let's go. Let's start the show. As I should hit my thing to start the show.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, I brought the old school intro back in for this. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I didn't do with the new one. We did old school. Bunch of people already lining up to talk, so we'll get everybody in here. As always, I always remind people, family show. Be a little more loose Friday night. Like, we got some Moon Man. Justin's already had a little happy hour. But family show, make sure you have your cameras on so I can see and have a shirt. Shirts are optional, I guess. I don't care. That's fine.
Listen, let's stop here and let's start with this. Daltrey, Justin is Polly. Listen, there's only one character that I am. I'm either Apollo, or actually two. I'm either Apollo or I'm Clubber Lang. There will be no Polly. I'm not getting that weird robot action going on. We'll leave that for somebody else. That can be Brian Smith.
Brian, man, by the way, I love Brian. I get so many comments, good and bad, when Brian comes on. Brian's authentic. He's real. Let's just jump into it, man. So we got a bunch of people in here. Brian, your camera's not on, but just throw your camera on because you were first in the queue, but then you can jump back in. We can see Mark, Rob, Curtis. There we go. Yeah. Let's get Brian in here. What's up, man? Thank you.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, where are you coming from?
In my car, just parked, actually.
Nice. Dude, confidence level heading into USC.
Looking at the college landscape, I feel like I want to be positive. I really do. But it feels like unless you're one of the top 5 teams, you have a lot of weaknesses. So I probably put it at a 6.5 of 10.
I think you're on the high end for Badger fans then.
Yeah.
Justin. I agree with that. I think that based off, number one, the spread on this game, which I absolutely think is ridiculous. Like, they're treating us like we're a MAC team coming into this game. Number two, I think a lot of fans are just out. Like, it feels really weird going into like pregame people predicting this game and seeing people with like, we're going to lose 35-13, or we're going to. I get that against Alabama. I do not get that against USC. Like, USC is not that good. There's definitive holes on this team that Wisconsin, well, we may not be able to truly exploit. They're going to be problematic for USC to at least the point where they're not going to be perfect in this game because they're just not that good. Like, the defense is very average. The offense is not a world beater. It's very good, but it's not like a dominant offense. So I look at it and I'm kind of like, I don't understand why people are so out on this. Like, if Wisconsin would win this game, yeah, it'd be an upset. But I look at it and I'm like, okay, like Ryan, you and I talked about it. This isn't like an 8-4 USC team. I look at it. There's going to be games they cough up because there's going to be games where they're not locked in and they're going to end up blowing a game. And I kind of feel like that could happen to Wisconsin. If Wisconsin comes in, plays crisp football, and USC has a letdown after the game against Michigan, they absolutely could cough this game up.
Yeah. Well, listen, Wisconsin can also come in this, get down, have to abandon the run, and get beat by 20. Like, that could happen. But
yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you this. Let me tell you guys this. Something I've been thinking about the last couple of days because I've been getting a bunch of USC comments in some of the shows I've done. I long for the day. And Brian and Justin, everyone, I long for the day that Wisconsin has blue blood arrogance because USC fans are so confident for a team that was 7-5 last year with a number 1 overall quarterback who just lost to a Michigan team that can't friggin' throw the ball. And they are so freaking confident. That's called blue blood bias. That's called blue blood arrogance.
Listen,
I long for the day Wisconsin has that.
Rajiv and I did our 3 big things. I had a fan from USC who legit was comparing them to Alabama.
Yeah, they ain't that.
I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, how lost are you in the woods if this is what you're coming up with, that you think you should be putting yourself in the same universe as USC or as Alabama? Alabama last year was a playoff team. You were barely made a bowl game with the number 1 pick at quarterback. Like, I don't understand this. Like, where does this arrogance come from?
And Brian, what's your thoughts? I want to get any other thoughts you have, and then also your thoughts. What are you expecting from Braedyn Locke?
So with Braedyn, I think he's going to struggle. He just really does not seem to have taken that step forward. Now, granted, I'm hoping that this bye week really helped him. Now that game plan is tailored towards his strengths. I see 180, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, I do see us getting behind, so we have to throw more. But the other aspect is I've seen, especially with the Rutgers game going on right now, these schools coming into the Big Ten are not quite used to dealing with the hog mollies that the Big Ten deals with up front. And dealing with it week after week after week. I could see USC really struggling, especially losing that D tackle who just decided, I guess, he didn't want to play anymore. That is still depth. Regardless of what he was for them, that's depth, and that's hard to replace, especially in the middle of the season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I look at this game, and I don't think Locke is going to be terrible in this, but I also I'm not sure what his upside is. Like there's not, I have a really hard time viewing this game where somehow he comes out for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's just, I have a hard time seeing him as that quarterback, but I also don't see him as a quarterback who comes out here and throws for 160 yards and 3 picks. Like it just he doesn't feel like that guy. He feels like there's very high floor, low ceiling is kind of how I view him.
Yeah. And I'll do this, and I said this in, I don't know, show, Discord, Twitter. Lord only knows at this point where I said it. Maybe just in my brain in the shower. But, like, you go back to Locke last year, right? He comes in halfway in that Iowa game, plays a couple games. He doesn't get a break in that stretch, right? And then it's Mordecai's job again. This year is the first time in season he gets kind of a break. Like, came in, now he has that bye. Now they're able to reset it in season. I don't know. I think there could be a little bit of a bounce back there. Brian, let me quickly ask you score prediction because I definitely want to get Mark. We got Rob, we got Curtis up in the thing, but give me your score prediction.
I'll go 27-24 USC.
Okay. That's a good showing for the Badgers.
Yeah, I think if they show some development, I don't think the loss is necessarily what fans will be upset about. It's how we look in a loss.
Justin, where you at on that one really quick? And then I want to get Mark in. And Brian, as always, brother, flowers to you. Thank you for always supporting the show. You're awesome. Appreciate you. What are the thoughts on if we look good, it's okay? Like, because it kind of comes back to talks we've had for a while of you got to walk before you run. It also feels like, right?
I think I view this as this is a USC team and not an Alabama.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't look at this as a game that I can justify a loss as being a quality step with this team. If he's taking a step, he needs to win this game. If we're talking Penn State, who looks like they're legit going to be good based off of the last few weeks, if Kotelnicki's offense actually starts clicking with them, that's a game where I look at where if we can keep that game close, then I'm like, okay. Because there's a chance that I think that Penn State is probably in the top 3 right now of the Big Ten with Ohio State and Oregon. And they might be number 2. Like I think if that offense is clicking the way that Kotelnicki is capable of running it, they can absolutely give Ohio State problems. Oregon has not shown me that they can be consistent enough yet that I look at them and I'm like, all right. Like at least Penn State has played consistent good football outside of the game against Bowling Green. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen that from Oregon yet. They've had numerous weeks where it's like, what are we going to see? Now, they might have taken off the last week, and maybe now we're going to see them be kind of what we expected. But it's hard to look at them and consider them to be like a dominant force until they do it for multiple weeks on end here.
Yeah, they haven't looked as advertised. I'll say that. Brian, my friend, thank you so much for tuning in, brother. Hope to see you again next week and beat SC. Let's do it. All right, Mark. Welcome back to the show, my friend. Long-time guy. Always appreciate you. What's going on, Mark?
Nothing much.
Where are you at right now?
I have gotten increasingly nervous about them being too conservative.
I think that's fair. I think we need to. I think we can say that right now Fickle is not holding down Longo, but if that's the case, then Longo needs to step it up and they need to be more aggressive, because this is not an offense that beats good football teams. This is an offense that you grind out MAC teams and just go home with a W. You're not going to do this against a team that's got a pulse.
And USC has a pulse. Like,
They
this
do,
is a
for
good football team, to be clear. So, yeah, I hear you, Mark. I do think, I'll say this. You did see in the Bama game, they didn't hit, but you did see Locke take a couple shots. Like, I think if you're trying to look for something, maybe that's what you look for. Maybe he's the guy that's going to be a little more comfortable. I think he can live in the middle a little bit in the intermediate routes. I think that's where maybe Locke can feast behind the linebackers, kind of that type of 15 to 20-yard range. But, yeah, that's a big concern, man. I agree.
I want to read this comment that you threw up here from Freddie Apex. 30-27 USC wins in a last-minute INT. If that happens, that would be the gut punch of all gut punches for Wisconsin, given what we've gone through for the last 3 years. You finally have a game where you play a really good game against a strong team and then cough it up in the last seconds. That would just be brutal.
What are you expecting from Locke, Mark?
I hope he gets better. I don't. Does he regress? Because I don't know.
I think it's hard to take too much away from the Alabama game because he's getting chucked into a game he's not even expecting to truly play. Like, we can say prepare the way you're the starter. That doesn't mean that you are as mentally locked in as you would be going into that game.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. If Wisconsin wins, and it's not like a 2-turnover game where we get 3 turnovers or special teams, we return a punt and we block a kick. It's not a crazy thing. If Wisconsin wins, Braedyn Locke has to play well. And what has to happen on defense? Is it just getting pressure on Moss, or is it making them one-dimensional, or is it Lincoln Riley kind of becoming a little stubborn? And the reason I ask that is I'm not sure Lincoln Riley wants to run the ball as much as USC fans think he does, even though I think they can explain it a little bit.
That's the perspective I took exactly on this. I think that I see him if you want to goad him into passing almost, because I think the easy way for USC to win this game is to lean on the run game and just be like, we're going to run it down your throats. Lincoln Riley doesn't want to do that. He's a guy who I think gets antsy after a while if he hasn't attacked. And you're not going to do that if you're a team that's just going to run the football down the other team's throat.
What do you think, Mark? What needs to happen on defense for the Badgers to win this, do you think?
They need to stop the run. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust our secondary yet for passes.
I like our secondary. I don't like them against the matchups that are in this game, which is a 6'6", a 6'4", and then a super shifty speed guy in the slot. It's a bad matchup for Wisconsin because, it's a bad matchup for anybody.
Hey, Mark, give us a score prediction.
24-21 Badgers.
Yeah, let's go. I love it. Listen, Wisconsin can win this game, or at least be. I'll say this: Wisconsin can absolutely be in a spot where they can win this game. Mm-hmm. They can play themselves in that spot. And some of these SC fans are nuts. I've been on a couple SC shows, and a lot of times when you go on shows, people give you courtesy respect. These dudes are just I like Wisconsin, but it's going to be 30-10 with a late Wisconsin touchdown. I'm like, okay, I don't think so. Maybe I'm crazy, but Mark, man, appreciate it. Let's get Rob in here. Rob, what's up, my friend? Nice to see you again. I think you're muted, though.
One of the few guys who puts my beard to shame.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Unmuted now. All right. Let's go.
You brush that thing, don't you?
What?
You brush that thing, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Confidence level. This is what we got. 4 to 5. You can break it down. Offense, I'm at a 1. Okay. Defense, I'm at a 3. Okay. Longo's had a year and a half. He's had one game where he's looked good, and everyone's like, oh, we did so great. We lost the game. We still lost. And then let's see. We've played 2 teams we were supposed to beat well, South Dakota, Western Michigan, didn't do it. So, and then it's Justin, I agree. Locke probably won't throw as many interceptions, but that's because they'll get batted down at the line, and you can't intercept it when it's knocked into the ground. So that's kind of where I'm at, guys.
That's not great.
I mean, Locke, low key, last year from an efficiency standpoint, like not from a completion percentage, he turned the ball over less than Mordecai did. He only had one pick the entire season in 3.5 games or whatever. So it's not, he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. You can argue whether
it down like 6 or 7 times last
game.
That
absolutely he had that. I won't argue that at all.
He gives Chase Wolf vibes.
Yeah. I'll say this.
I mean, don't say that. I saw one of the worst pick sixes I've ever seen from Chase Wolf.
I'll say this with Locke, the pocket presence holding onto the football. He fumbles too much. Like he's not the biggest dude.
He holds onto the ball too long.
He holds onto the ball too long, 100%. So, but yeah, I think he's. I actually, it's weird, man. I feel like Locke is going to surprise people this week. I really do. I think he's going to hit some throws and move the chains a bit. I don't know. I could be crazy on that, but some of it's based on like I think having this bye week, and then I don't think USC is going to stack the box. They're going to try to play the run. I think it's going to give Locke some opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's quarterback, he wasn't doing much as far as deep throws, but at the same time, it's like
he wasn't doing much in terms of throws.
Yeah, no, he ran though, so I mean that's something that Locke doesn't have.
Yeah. What kind of score prediction are you rolling with? Are you thinking?
I got 31-17.
Okay.
So, and then because they scored 24 on Michigan. And they have a good defensive line, something we don't have. So you got to at least give them another touchdown on top of that. So I think it's easy at 31.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question because, while I do think Michigan's defense is clearly better than ours, I also think the entire second half of that game, they were incredibly one-dimensional, and we're just getting stopped for a long period in the second half because they couldn't move the football because USC knew they were going to run every time.
Yeah.
Mikey, I want to kick this around to you guys. A lot of delusional people in here. Maybe not as much Rob with his one confidence ranking on the offense. Our D-line simply makes this team non-competitive. Like if the case is the defense line is so bad we can't be competitive, I want to throw that out to you guys. Is that just true?
I think it's a C- defensive line. I don't think it's an utter train wreck to the point where like they're unplayable, but I think that you need a lot to go right for them to not hurt you in the game.
Yeah, I mean the conversation's been had about the 2-4-5. We used to run it with Jim Leonard as well. Your linebackers need to step up if your defensive line's not going to be as good. Yeah. And we brought in all these guys to do that, and they just haven't been able to accomplish it.
Yeah. I would say on the defensive line, I think C-, D+, somewhere in that range. But I don't think it doesn't mean you can't be competitive because there's a lot of, I'll say this, there's a lot of teams that are going to have a deep minus positional group somewhere. That, like Justin, you mentioned it. Outside of Bama, maybe Penn State, all these teams have holes. Like USC's not a great team. They have holes exploitable.
Is giving up 5.5 yards a carry right now for their defensive line.
Yeah. I will say this. I think coming out of this game, we're going to have a really good feel of if we can lean on the running game the rest of the year. Wisconsin has to show they can run the ball. And if they can against a team giving up 5.5 per pop, I don't know, guys.
Yeah, the rest of the season is going to be a train wreck if they can't at least be, like I said, what do you think is the over-under on yards they need to be able to get on the ground?
Ooh, that's a great
100,
one.
160, somewhere in there?
You might need to go up a little bit to win this game.
I would agree. I think if we're talking about the Badgers possibly winning this game, I think they need to be around the 200-yard game from a rushing standpoint.
I think it's 180, 200. What do you think, Rob?
I think if you're at 150, though, you should be able to open up play action. I mean, you're still going to have to pass.
It depends how good you pass. I think that comes down to, like, you're going to need a decent passing game at 150. I think at 200, you're probably looking at it as long as he's adequate and can kind of pick up a play here and there.
Yeah.
You can get away with it and lean on the run game.
The one thing I'll say on the run game is it also just has to be efficient. Like, outside of just raw numbers, you could run for 150 if it's efficient and you're
able situationally speaking, it's productive. Yeah.
You just have to be way more efficient with it than Wisconsin has been. Wisconsin has been efficient enough. All right, Rob, I'm gonna let you get going, my friend, so I can get Curtis and we got Jesse in after that. But dude, as always, Appreciate you, brother. You're the best.
Hopefully everyone else is a little bit more positive.
You can't be less. You gave me
Look, a -6.
Amen. Like I said, Longo's had one good game and he lost.
I've said the same
game
thing.
against LSU.
I have said the same thing.
I'm not
happy
gonna
with what we've seen.
I'm not gonna be like Brian Smith on if he's rubbing off on you like this.
Man, it's Brian Smith, it's Ryan Eilers, you know. But I mean, Brian Smith ain't been wrong. I can't wait. If he's ever wrong, I want to be on the show so I can let him know.
He's a sharp dude, man. All right, dude. As always, on Wisconsin. Appreciate you jumping on. Big man, let's go. Curtis.
What's up, man? First off, to Rob, who just got off, Brian Smith has been dead ass wrong about Florida State all offseason. So there's him being wrong perspective. Okay.
He's also been wrong on several Wisconsin players that I think, like, I remember him saying Brandon Ames was a nice player. He's all right. And then we hear that Clemson and Georgia are reaching out and trying to talk to him. It's like,
I love
Ryan and I were all in on him from the get-go, and it's like, yeah, this kid's a dude. He's an all right player. And it's like, no, he's a dude. And it shows when you start getting those teams trying to get in his ear.
I mean, Wisconsin players lead the league in sacks, but, you know, he told me they only come from Florida, South Florida, D linemen like that. So,
pass rushers?
You know, that's fair.
There's no one that's ever come out of Florida State that has been as good of a pass rusher as either of the Watts. Just putting that out there.
I'm not going to make that claim. I'm not making that claim.
There's some dudes out of Florida State, but let's go
here.
There are.
None of them have put up remotely the career numbers of sacks for those.
That's fair. I mean, I think in the aggregate, Brian Smith has been more right than the Wisconsin fan base, but that's because we're a Wisconsin fan base and we're not.
Well, I think it's definitely like that removed third party kind of watch, you know, like I do a much better job of predicting Iowa and Minnesota and Michigan, USC last week. Like I can see that way clearer than I see our teams a lot of times, but we can get into that.
Well, where are you at? You've heard all this conversation. Obviously, you've heard all the other conversations the rest of the week. You more or less optimistic at this point than you were early in the week?
I'm more optimistic than I was last week. I'm probably about the same as I was at the beginning of the week. I mean, here's the thing. There's a couple things that, like, I think sort of affect how this game is going to be played. One, USC is coming after a physical game. That weighs on a team. I don't really care what anybody says. You're getting hit 56 times in a row. That's going to hurt. It's going to weigh on you. USC hasn't had to do that. They just haven't had. I mean, when you watch the film, you can see it. Their players were like, they weren't ready for that. Not that level of physicality from Minnesota. And now you lose one of your depth pieces in Barry Alexander, which he played a good amount. It wasn't like he was a starter, you know, but when he was in there, you could tell he was in there. He's a physical freak. You could see it in the film. So losing him doesn't help. I'm not saying it's going to kill their defense, but it doesn't help. And then, you know, the funny thing is, we had a conversation in the Discord earlier about, you know, USC's offensive line. Oh, it's closer to Bama's. USC's offensive line is actually closer to the teams we played, if not probably, you know, probably more on that area than Alabama. We're probably closer to Bama than USC is. I mean, so the funny thing is they had all three of their tackles last week had a pass rush grade of 0, or had a PFF grade of 0, like a 0, like just 0.
I would say their offensive line would be in the bottom third of the Big Ten.
It is in the bottom third of the Big Ten. It already is that. So I don't know what
I'm saying. People that are talking it up, they're wrong.
No, I mean, like, and that's the thing. It's like the film bears it out. Yes, Michigan has really good D tackles. I wish we had those D tackles. 100%. It wasn't the guards getting a 0 PFF grade, who the tackles lined up on the whole game. It was who the D tackles lined up. Might have got to call both sides tackles and guards. It makes it complicated. It was the edge rush that was killing Michigan, and it was because Badger fans will know this well. Watching that game, their tackles looked like Nelson and Malman when we played Washington State last year, only more stiff. That's what they looked like. They just got ran by the whole game. It wasn't even. They didn't even I don't even think they got a hand on anybody the whole game. It was bad. I saw you were on the USC video today. USC fans have always been like that. They're like Notre Dame fans, Michigan fans. They're always all uppity and think they're the best at everything because, you know, the university of spoiled children. That's just kind of how they roll. But the funny thing that I thought was interesting was he was like, well, you know, Woody Marks averaged 7 yards a carry. So they ran the ball well. I'm like, they ran the ball like 3 times in the first quarter, realized they literally couldn't do it. And then they had one run play that Michigan's linebacker was out of position. They broke for 90 yards. There's your 7 yards of carry. And oh, by the way, if you're going to use that logic to say your running game was good, then Michigan kicked the crap out of you because they had 3 of those runs that were 80-something yards. So, you know, and by the way, that was Michigan's game plan. So not taking Michigan's out of their game plan, to me, is not a flex. Your defense just failed its job. So, no, I don't look at USC like there's some great team. But on the flip side, they can easily beat us. I mean, we are not perfect at all either. We got our own issues we got to work through and things like that. It's like playing Nebraska. That's how I look at this.
Isn't even averaging 100 yards a game.
No,
like he's their bell cow.
He's nothing special in the Big Ten at all.
He's at
no offense to the kid. Not
69 yards, I believe, in 3 games. So he's averaging about 90 yards a game, which is not bad. But if he did it, I don't know what he did in the Michigan game because I didn't break down the stats. But if he had 100 plus yards in that game, that tells you that he was even worse before that. So I will say this, like, looking at USC, the way their fan base kind of looks at them, they're like, I had people on our podcast throwing LSU in my face, and I'm like, LSU had UCLA, who everyone considers to be an awful team, in the game with them at the half. They had Nicholls State staying with them late in the game and had to pull away late to win that game. So
if we go by transit property, like Indiana would crush LSU.
LSU's not a good team this year.
Yeah.
They're going to get beat up when they get into the SEC games, and that's what's going to happen to them. And they're going to get – I actually think Nussmeier is actually a pretty good quarterback, but their defense is so bad. And Nussmeier's not dynamic enough to carry them and just score at will like they were doing with Jaden Daniels. They're going to lose because they're not going to be able to put up a ridiculous amount of points.
Brian Shetty talking some Big Ten stuff. Kedrick Stumbris in the chat, good friend of the show, says football. Why are we talking about that? Women's hockey just scored an NCAA record, 8 goals in the period. My dude, Kedrick, you missed our women's hockey segment. That was what we led the show off with. We did 20 minutes on it, breakdown strategy. Like, we were all up in that. You missed it, brother. Guys, a couple comments I want to get into here, and then Jesse, you're up next. I definitely want to get you, man. Thank you for your patience. There's a couple in here just where Rather and Cabo, a couple of guys are saying, I just hope we don't become a punching bag of the Big Ten. Like, it feels like trajectory has, if you go back to the last couple of years of Christ, beginning of Fickle, like, this thing is not trending in the best possible way right now. Are you guys worried about this type of thing at all?
So I look at it like this. 3 years ago, Mel Tucker had Michigan State at 11-2. Everybody said this team is trending up. This is the team of the future. Mel Tucker is an amazing coach. He's gonna, he's undefeated versus Michigan, which he was at that time. He's gonna bring this team to a new level. And then that team disappeared. Everyone forgets that in 2020 and even 2021, Penn State they started the year 0-3, 0-4, and then in 2021 they were 7-5. Right now they're an unassailable peak of the Big Ten. Indiana and Rutgers. Indiana was picked by many to be one of the last teams in the Big Ten. They might be closer to the top 5 teams in the Big Ten right now. So, I mean, trends to me don't mean anything until the games are played. And each team is different every single year because of the transfer portal, right? And so when I look at, trend lines, here's what I say. I wish our team was better. I wish we had more depth in the defensive front. I wish we had a quarterback that we felt confident in having played in the same system over the course of a season. Those are things I wish we had. Illinois has that right now.
Yeah.
Indiana doesn't, but I don't know what it is about the allure of Coach Sig. That dude has an aura unlike any coach in our conference right now. I can't even get mad at that. But for me, it's like, what are we doing to fix the weaknesses we have? And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We're bringing in guys on the defensive front. That's just going to take time. There's nothing we can do about that. It is what it is, unless we want to change our whole NIL structure. And I look at the quarterbacks, it's the same kind of thing. I think that this is a great opportunity to see if Locke is going to be the guy moving forward, because I'm not really worried about USC tomorrow. I'm worried about the rest of the season. I don't think we're falling off. I think the rest of the Big Ten is just getting better. And I think you got maybe a top 2 or 3 right now. And then everybody from like Nebraska through, I don't know, pretty much all the way down. To me, any of those teams could beat anybody on any given weekend, pending the circumstances. Like, no one has shown up like, we can't beat that team. No one's looked like that. So I mean, for me, I guess I don't really think about it like, oh, we're, bottom 10, top 10 of the Big Ten. I just look at it like, if we played Illinois, we could probably beat them. They're a good team right now, and they'd probably beat us more times than not, but we could still win that game. That's kind of how I look at it.
My perspective on it is unless you completely feel like the coaching staff is just garbage, we're recruiting too well to be a bottom feeder in the Big Ten.
I agree with that.
We are recruiting at a significantly higher level than a lot of these teams, even Rutgers, who I know has put together a really nice class, but he's going to have to stack those consistently. They had a really strong class in New Jersey this year, which is part of the reason why they're actually rated pretty high. But Wisconsin is consistently going to be probably in that 30 to 15 and 30 range is what I view it as. Peak to floor under Fickle. I just think they're going to recruit well enough that that's where they are. I don't see that happening. I think that people need to understand that some of these teams have more continuity. I think the one that's kind of surprising to me is actually Indiana, who has had so much turnover and is playing at this level. But Rutgers is effectively the same team. They just plugged in a quarterback. Like, that's really the only big change that they've had.
Illinois returned basically their whole offense, too.
Absolutely. And their defense was rough last year. They had a lot of young guys who had to get some reps into them. Look a lot better this year. Wisconsin.
I'll say this in the chat. People probably think right now, I would guess that most people in the chat would assume if we were to play Illinois right now, that would probably be a loss. That's my guess based on the tenor of what the conversation has been. But think about it like this. Last year, what was it? Did they even make a bowl last year? Is all I'm saying. Things fluctuate. Yeah, things fluctuate year over year.
Yeah. Let me do this.
That's my point.
Let me get your score prediction because Jesse's been in the queue for a long time. Then we got
I gave mine. Not JP. Oh man, here we go. I better get more whiskey.
Smiling.
Yeah. So I gave my score prediction earlier this week. I mean, my thoughts haven't really changed. I do think USC beats us. I do think our pass rush and D line is going to be a little bit worse. Actually watched Ryan Anderson put out a Dairy Raid defensive run game video today. And one thing that I think is of note is when you watch that film against Alabama, Milroe puts so much stress on the defense that is just not going to exist in any game we play this season.
Well,
because
let our pass rushers rush that game. Like our edge guys just sat back and waited and tried to.
And it's like you could tell he affected the game. He held the linebackers. He was the reason that like they were able to go so smoothly. It just froze everyone in place because he could tuck it at any moment and take off and get 30. USC is not going to be able to do that. No other team we play this year is going to be able to do that.
Oh, they're going to tee off on Moss. Like if they actually can win their matchups, they're going to attack him because they want to get him off his spot, and he's not a guy who can stress the defense with his legs. You want him moving. It's like having Tom Brady back there. You want him moving off his spot so that his arm he can't just sit there and throw like he's a pitcher.
Except not Tom Brady. Think of like
he's not that level of player.
Tom Brady was pretty good.
Tom Brady was a guy who did not want to move in the pocket. He wanted to stay where he was.
He was still pretty good at moving in the pocket, though.
But he's moving a foot left or right. We're not talking about a guy who you're pushing.
Let me pause. And because I want to get Jesse in here, man. Jesse's been waiting for a great minute, and I definitely appreciate the patience. Curtis, man, love you, bro. Thank you for jumping on. Let's go. Let's get Jesse in here. Jesse, what's up, man? Thank you for the patience, brother.
Yeah, no problem. How's it going, guys?
Doing good, man. Where are you calling from?
California.
SC fan?
No. Badger fan.
You've been in the chat before. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your vibe right now? Where are you at? Like confidence-wise?
Confidence level, I'd probably say actually like a 7.5 and 8.
Take that, Rob. If you're still in the chat, Rob, take that, you loser.
People are going to call me a homer. People are going to call me biased, but listen, there's a lot of holes. Just like we have a lot of holes, USC also has a lot of holes. And, especially like defensive wise, even for them, I know their defense is better than it was a year ago, but there's still quite a few holes defensively. And then I think their strong suit is their wide receivers. And I know their running back had a good game last week, averaged 7.5 yards a carry or whatever it was, but 7 yards a carry. But I would still say that's a weak point on their offensive side of the ball. But they have holes just like we do, so I don't see why this isn't a winnable game for us, if I'm being honest.
Rob would like to know, is weed legal in California? He's not buying your optimism.
It is.
Listen,
But I don't smoke though.
You're right in that regard, because honestly, if you looked at if Miller Moss was an average quarterback, we would be looking at USC as probably a worse team than us, because they have a very mediocre offensive line. I think they're okay on defense, but I don't think they're overly dynamic on that side of the ball either. I think you'd look at them and say, this is a team that's probably going to struggle a lot. And I think you could, at least with Wisconsin, you can be like, I believe in that offensive line. I don't think you can do that with USC. Like if they have a game where Moss is being restricted, do you trust their offense to be able to run the football down somebody's throat and win a game? I don't.
No.
I think Wisconsin has a better chance of doing that than USC does.
Yeah.
I think the defenses effectively, to me, are kind of a wash.
The difference I would say is they have a better pass rush, where I think they can.
I think we have a better secondary though.
Yeah, I just think they can affect quarterbacks better than we can, though. So I think you're right. I think you're right. If you can impact Moss, I don't think they can run the ball when the other team kind of knows it's coming. But Moss is harder to impact because our pass rush isn't very good, and Moss is good against the blitz. Like, he's good under pressure. So he's not Jalen Milroe. He's not going to break your back scrambling. But if you send a blitz, he's going to see it coming. You better get there.
Yeah.
I will say, with working with a lot of USC fans, I will say that they're acting like they have the 05 team going on right now, which I think that's just their standard and that's just how they are. Like Ryan was saying, I think it's that blue blood arrogance, which I'd kill to have. But I will say, this is one thing I don't think a lot of people are speaking on, whether it's not just Badger fans, but like Big Ten fans. So they went into Michigan last weekend, and Michigan did the stereotypical Michigan, where we're going to run the ball down your throat, and then we're going to do a play action pass, or we're going to have our quarterback who's mobile enough and he's going to run on you. And then USC didn't really have an answer for that. The whole first half, they struggled and struggled and struggled. I think from what I'm gathering from just talking with a lot of USC fans out here, they see Wisconsin's defense worse than Michigan's, or as worse off than Michigan's. And I think they think it's going to be a game where, like a Pac-12 game last year, where they can just do whatever they want because the Pac-12 didn't play defense last year.
Yeah,
well, that's not the case. That's not the case. This is the Big Ten. Like, that's not how the league plays ball. Not so much just Wisconsin, but that's not how the league plays ball. So, like, we're not going to let you dictate and do that. And just like other teams aren't going to let you dictate and do that. And they got a taste of that in Michigan last week. And I think that's how they're going to just have a hard time with the Big Ten. And I don't think they're the only team that's going through that. Washington was getting beat last I checked by Rutgers right now.
21-10 Rutgers.
Yeah. And Oregon hasn't looked great to this point. They've looked kind of mid in most of their games that they've played thus far.
Have they even played a Big Ten game yet?
What's that?
Or has Oregon even played a Big Ten game yet?
Not yet. But just in their games in general, they don't look like up to par what I thought they would look like. And I just think, them coming into the Big Ten, they're going to get a real taste of what the Big Ten is and the type of ball that we play. And then I keep hearing the schedule, in terms of like, well, you guys only beat South Dakota by, 28-14 or whatever. And it's like, well, South Dakota is actually a really good FCS school. And then the next week you get Bama, which Bama's going to do what they did to us against pretty much anybody, unless you're Georgia, Clemson, or whatever. And so it's like, I don't know. There's so many holes on USC's team, especially defensive-wise. I don't think this is like an automatic loss, and I don't know why so many people are chalking it up as an automatic loss.
I want to add on something you said really quick, and then Justin, I see you had a comment. I also want to throw this up here for you. Well, first of all, Will Hannah's in the chat. I love Will. Will's one of the best. Sam Doctor says Justin is the best. I agree with that as well. Love Justin. I want to add on to a point you made there. Jesse. Like I was talking to the USC guy, and he's like, "There's all this holding in this game." I went on his show, his podcast. He's like, "A ton of holding." I'm like, "No, in the Big Ten, that's called blocking. Like y'all got to get over that. Like that's
you guys want to play patty cake at USC.
And yes, there is some holding, but in the Big Ten, that
there is in the NFL too. Every single play
that they're worried about in the Big Ten, that's literally called blocking. Suck it up. They had posted screenshots of every hold from Michigan, and I'm like, bro, go watch an Iowa-Wisconsin game. They'll be.
And I'll tell you, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get those in every game.
Mm-hmm.
And if they think that this is how it is for football, and they want all the holding calls to be called, I got bad news for them when basketball season rolls around and they got Big Ten basketball refs.
No kidding, yeah.
I got bad news for them. I really do.
Jesse, give me a score prediction quick. Sorry, I hate to cut you off. I want to get JB in as well, but you're 100% on. I love that take because Big Ten basketball is going to muck it up too.
Oh, yeah. Score prediction is 28-24 Badgers.
Let's eat. I love it. Jesse, man, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, good luck out there. Punch a USC fan like Justin would tell somebody and drink some beer.
I'll give it a go.
Okay. All right, man. Let's get JB on the show. Listen, before we get JB on the show, as a reminder, it is a family-friendly show, JB. Not that you
Yes. Yeah, he's smiling and laughing, but it's
Where
very
am I calling
true.
from, Ryan? You're not going to ask me where I'm calling from?
Where are you calling from?
I'm in the Midwest, baby. Well, I don't know which way. But yeah, St. Louis, man. I'm in the loop.
So
5.5 hours away.
So wait,
I mean, it was 4 hours and 15 minutes one time. But that's
I want to say something based on what we're talking about here, because I think USC fans do legitimately think that they're on the same tier as Alabama. That game would be a double-digit spread. It's going to be probably the same spread that we're seeing right now. It would probably be 14, 15 points, because what they would say is the talent gap there is significant. And
okay, that's a perfect transition, because what I wanted to talk about was there's no reason to take anything bad from the Alabama game at all. We shouldn't even consider it. It doesn't matter. And here's why. Okay. The talent deficit that he was talking about, I did a little deep dive on. Okay. Alabama currently on the roster, right? So they have 17 5-stars and 54 stars. The difference, and they're a 93.79 average player ranking. UGA, who's number 2, has 14, 55, and 92.85. That's a 0.94 difference. If you add this to our score, we jump up 10 spots. Clemson, who's ranked 5th, has 7 5-stars and 49 4-stars. They're 2.9 difference. If you add that to us, we jump up to number 6. So the difference between the number 1 and the number 5 team is the same as between us and the 50th team. And if you look at USC to Alabama is a 3.88, and you take that off of ours, we're below the worst team in the country. So the difference between us and the 133rd team is more than the difference between USC and Alabama. So there's no comparison. We were going to get beat by them. You know, did we have a shot? Sure, if everything lines up properly. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't take anything away from what happened at Alabama. We all expected that to happen. And then I wanted to also say about that is that, in my opinion, if we play exactly like we played against Alabama, exactly at the same level, same threshold, same everything, and we don't fumble 4 times, and we don't make stupid plays, we're an 8-14. I 100% believe that.
You finally joined my side, dog. That's all I've been saying all week.
I think that's a fair.
I just did a rewatch. I just did a rewatch just before this. This is positive, JB.
I love this.
But so I rewatched the game just before we did this, and I actually the first half in particular, I was looking at some stuff. Right in the second quarter, Pauling was wide open, and Locke overthrew him by about 3 yards. If he catches that, that's 7 points. So I know we can play the if games, but that's just stuff that can happen. That wasn't because Alabama was better than us. It's just because Locke overthrew him, and who knows, maybe 8 out of 10 times he doesn't overthrow him because he's a pretty accurate quarterback, but it just happened on that play. We have 4 fumbles, right? Yak has a fumble where he's got the ball out here, and he's running into 3 Alabama players. You got to hold that ball and go down. Those guys are going to punch that ball out. Those guys are bigger, stronger, more athletic. They're going to grab that ball and take it out. That was just a dumb play by him. After he had 9 yards, what was he going to get? Another 3 feet? Just go down, man. We got another play right after that. Chez's fumble was unbelievable. He dove straight, and the Alabama player hit it with the football.
Took
right?
on a guy that didn't have to take down.
The helmet to the ball, man. Just knocked it right out.
That was like, dude, you're a fifth-year senior. Just hold on to the ball. Like you just can't do that. This is Alabama. We couldn't do it against Indiana last year. You for sure can't do it against Alabama, right? And then there are two other fumbles that we fumbled, kill drives. On 4th and inches, you cannot hike the ball 5 to 7 yards and hand it off when you have Alabama in front of you. By the time he gets there, they're going to push our guys back. Our O-line was playing fine. Go under center, hand that ball off, or just do a quarterback dive and get your 6 inches if you're going to go for it on that play, right? At the end of the half, it's 14-3, and we're driving down. Now, we obviously weren't trying for a touchdown there. Our plan was to kick a field goal. You got to run enough time off the clock. You can't leave, 45 seconds on the clock, and if you miss a 53-yard field goal, you're giving them a short field, 2 plays, touchdown. So instead of 14-3 at the half, or 14-6 if we hit that field goal, it's 21-3. So what I'm saying is that has nothing to do with Alabama being better than us. It just has to do with we didn't make it was bad coaching, it was bad play calling, and bad execution from the players in certain ways, but it wasn't because Alabama just did something to us. And all those plays gave them short drives. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take so much time or whatever, but I've been thinking about this all week, and I did kind of a deep dive on it. I was like, I wanted to look at the talent deficit stuff or whatever. And I just think that if we play the same way, and fumbling the ball 4 times is atypical. That normally doesn't happen. These other teams aren't going to punch the ball out the same way that Alabama is. They're not going to have 2 5-star. And also, in terms of talent deficit, I was thinking about this. Is there a single player on our team that you wouldn't trade for the same guy on Alabama's team? I mean, Rico or Wooler's probably the best player, right? Their safety that plays the same spot was a 5 to 6 projected round draft pick, decided to come back for a bag of cash, was preseason All-American, and is going to be probably a top 3 round pick. Wooler's not that. Maybe he will be, but I'm just saying, that's it. Who else? You're not going to trade Rico for the 2 5-star cornerbacks? You wouldn't trade I would trade our entire running back room for their running back. I'm just saying, it's that much of a difference. So I don't feel bad about the Alabama game. Did I hate it? Yeah. Did I see a lot of stupid mistakes? Yeah. Would I rather have been like a 30-21 game or 30-17 or something like that, which it should have been if we wouldn't have made those mistakes? Yeah, we probably still wouldn't have beat them. But it just felt bad because of those mistakes and whatever. And that's what I wanted to say. Sorry if I took up too much time or whatever.
No, dude, that was awesome. Really quick before anyone goes, because a lot of people may not know who JB is, because you're not in our Discord. You may not know JB's a legend in the Discord. One of the best dudes I can interact with.
JB's my Discord nemesis. Him and I argue constantly.
One of the reasons to get in the Discord.
I've had my fair spots with JB in the Discord before.
Yeah, but now we both love Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Oh, for sure. Exactly.
Even though you're not going to ever make me drink bourbon and like it.
Let me throw
okay.
this.
I could.
Don't worry, I got your back there.
I'm a USC fan. So we get a couple comments in here. You guys are no different than Oregon State or Stanford on the road. USC would never get beat, never get smoked at home by anybody. Bro, this is what I'm talking about.
Stanford.
They lost to Stanford multiple times when they had Pete Carroll. What are you talking about?
You guys were trash last year.
I don't even
college football. Stop it.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't.
Stop acting like you have Alabama's roster.
They're gonna have James. I ask you to look at Nebraska's record over the last 20 years. That's what you guys are. I'm foreshadowing.
Congratulations on 7 wins last year.
That's actually pretty damn accurate. I'm not going to even lie.
All right, that's enough of putting all of our time into the USC fan that's in your trolling. Thoughts on JB? I want to get you this. Thoughts? What are you expecting from Braedyn Locke this weekend? And then I want to kind of go around the horn. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, well, I did that survey. I don't know if you saw it in the Discord about what would be a good season for. Would this be an accurate season or not? And I based it off of 200 yards a game.
I expect from him.
What'd you say?
I actually think that's pretty close to what I expect from him.
What I put in there? Yeah, and so I figured 200 yards a game, 1.5 touchdowns, half a pick. He's not really an interception. At least he hasn't been yet. I put in there 19 or I put in 36 rushes for negative 17 yards. Everybody's like, what? I was like, well, last year he was 17 rushes for negative 30 or so, whatever it was. I was trying to give him but that's also they figure in the sack yards.
Yeah,
so,
sack yardage. He's not going to be a plus run.
I did give him 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. I figure they'll work something in where he'll jump across the line. But yeah, I mean, what do I expect from him? I mean, our offensive line can hold them. This is not Alabama. Like what we saw last week looked really bad and felt really bad. We're not I don't care if they have one guy who's a dog and they got another guy who's quick and fast from the outside. If they play their best game, then they're going to beat us. If we play our best game and they don't, we're probably going to beat them. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. So I think Locke's probably going to throw for, 180 to 200 yards. I think he'll have, let's just say, 2 touchdowns, maybe, no interceptions. And I think that's good enough to beat them. Because I think if we rush for 225 yards or 230 yards, we win the game. And as long as we keep their offense off the field, but
Ball control.
But Locke has done that. I mean, saying Locke isn't going to be a 300-yard passer or a 350-yard passer for 4 touchdowns a game. No, he's not going to be that. But can he be a 200-yard passer with 2 touchdowns? Sure, why not?
You can do that.
He's a Division One. He's a Division One quarterback. Yeah.
What I will say,
I'm optimistic about the season. I'm optimistic about the game. I don't think we're going to win it. I wouldn't predict us to win it. That would just be because they have more talent than we do. And honestly, the only exception I would say to my whole spiel that I gave earlier is quarterback, right? So even if you have a huge talent deficit, but your quarterback's way better than their quarterback, or you have a guy who can rush for 1,000 yards a season and throw for 3,000, even if the rest of your guys aren't as good, that's a huge difference maker because it negates the defensive line, right? It negates maybe that your offensive line isn't as good. There's like a whole bunch of things like that. I think we have a good offensive line. I think we can run the ball. I don't believe in Ches at all. I don't think that he's the guy. I actually like Yak better than Ches if you want to start a guy. He's been on the team for a few years. He's faster.
Anyone that watched the team and watch the first 3 games would say the same thing. If you're betting on Ches at this point, you simply like Ches as a human being or person and not based on.
I think when Ches was at his best, I would want that, but he hasn't been that for like.
Do you think it's just that he's beaten up, maybe?
He looks
when you
slower.
watch it, it's like he looks like steps slower. He looks like he's hesitant, like he's not making the cuts when he needs to make the cuts.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's in his head. I don't know what it is, but to me, it's an honest conversation this week. You better get it together, or your ass is not going to play. Because he can't have that.
You think the freshmen are ready? You think like just play Dupree and we haven't played Jones at all really. We was like in one game, I think. But
Yeah, I don't think you can play 5 running backs, so that's the problem. Like you can't play Dupree.
You got to commit to somebody.
Well, Tywee just needs to sit. Like he's not healthy at this point. He clearly has a dinged up leg. Just don't play him, and I would rather have Yak getting those carries than a guy who clearly has no burst at all right now.
So Yak's your number 1, Justin. Who's your number 2?
If I had my choice, it's probably going to be Dupree. I can understand if the staff says we're going to go Acker and just say we're going to go, bull in a china shop. Let's run it down their throat. But I don't like that play because I don't know if he has the vision to be really productive at all in that role.
So do you think
Ches isn't going to drop out of the station though, no matter what.
No, but if I was going to say if I had to choose between him and Dupree getting the carries, I want Dupree getting the carries because I think he'll be more productive. Like
do we know how injured?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, do we know how injured Tywee really is? I don't know if it's like
somebody
he's
say
injured or if that's what he is.
Yeah,
because
on the Wired, he still has a
he would be the running back I'd want this week. He's the anvil, and he's going to bring a lot of pain.
I agree.
The thing is, Brian, you always talk about explosive plays, like explosive playmakers, right?
That's going to be their reaction.
And Ches is not that, right? So if you need that, right? Is Dupree that guy?
He's definitely capable.
That's the question. I don't know.
Ryan, we saw him make some of those runs in camp, though.
I know, and I saw him make some in camp, but he's also averaging 3.5 yards per carry, and it's not fully fair, but he's got 14 carries, and I think he can be that guy. Will he be that guy in week 4 or week 5, whatever it is against USC after a bye week? Probably not. If we're being straight up honest, probably not.
No, but I think you're better off finding out if he could be that guy. I don't think if I had to look at him and Ches side by side in this game, do I feel like I'm losing something if I play Dupree and try to get him reps to get more confident and more comfortable? I don't think I'm losing anything by playing Dupree in that role. I think that he's going to give me whatever Ches would give me, and I think there's more upside.
Well, not the way
Ches is a better blocker.
Well, yeah. I mean, but you have guys that you can put into that role if you're in a third down.
So Yak is what, like a 7 yards a carry right now?
Yeah, no, I think some of that's a little inflated.
It's a small sample size, but yeah, he's well above anybody else.
I mean,
perhaps I agree. Let's
no, that's not. I agree with that.
Let's do this. We're coming up on an hour. I do want to go round the table one more time. Any last thoughts, like last words before the game? Anything you think hasn't been hit on enough? We'll kind of wrap it up there unless there's any other comments we really want to hit. JB, let's start with you, man. Last thoughts before the game.
Man, I just want to play. I want to win, man. I mean, honestly, like I'm a product of I remember the Morton days when this is not like that. Okay, this isn't 1-11 or 3-8. This isn't. But I also lived through the Alvarez years and and everything moving forward from that. And I just remember going into every single game I actually thought we were going to win every single game. Even when we played Ohio State, I thought we were going to win that game. Like, oh my God, we've got Melvin Gordon, we've got Jonathan Taylor, we've got this guy, and I could cheer for that guy. And I just want that. I just want to go in here not thinking like, can we win? Not talking about can we win. We can win. And this is how we're going to do it. And here's the guy that's going to do it. It's going to be Yak. It's going to be Yak, and it's going to be I don't know who on defense, but somebody, one of the linebackers. Tackle Curtis is going to have 3 sacks. Whatever it is, we're going to have death row. Right, we're gonna have death row written on the arms again. Like I just want that. And that's it, man. That's what I want. I just want those guys to go in there and just beat the hell out of the other team. And if we lose, but we beat the hell out of them, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? But I just don't want to keel over. I don't want to look bad. That's really good for me.
Justin,
I don't know if a Luke Fickell team can look bad. Like I don't know if we'll ever have a game where he looks like
we have looked bad.
Well. Looks like completely overmatched garbage. Like when we saw the game against Ohio State in that last season with Chris, or against Illinois, a team that we were on par with from a talent perspective and just blew us off the field. We have not seen a game where a Luke Fickell team has come in and looked unprepared and looked like they just didn't care. I don't see that happening. I don't see a game where we have that type of game unless we play Ohio State or Alabama. The talent gap is just there, and we're not playing good football right now. So we're going to get blown off the field.
I hate to interrupt you. James said something about Wisconsin losing to USC 2015. No, you didn't beat us. Sorry.
We beat you.
We should have won by more because they called us out of bounds on a play that we weren't actually out of bounds.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Justin. I'm sorry. I saw that and I'm like, no, I'm not going to let that slide in the chat. That's bogus.
That's some real blue blood bias again. They don't even recognize their freaking law.
Justin, with what you just said, Justin, you don't think that happened in the Indiana game last year?
Northwestern, like those were bad games.
Yeah, it was a bad game. Okay, I look at that and I say this is a team that like is struggling to figure out things out rather than a team that's just that doesn't care. Like there's a difference between.
Justin, I wish I could pull up right now your receipts from that game.
Oh, dude, don't get me wrong. I was angry because that is a team that we should not lose to. But I also, like Ryan and I talked last year when this all happened and why people are getting so upset with the Fickell stuff. And I'm like, when Ryan and I talked about this, I'm like, there's a chance that this isn't going to be a perfect transition. Like there's definitely, like we want it to be like this is the ceiling. And when we talk about it, we're like, this is where things go really well and things work out. We haven't had that. We've been more towards the middle or lower middle in terms of what we've seen in terms of the transition, which is you're not hitting on the guys that you're bringing in as short-term fixes. Now you have to rely on the guys you're bringing in, which I've talked about that. I'll talk about this with anybody when it comes to the portal. Anyone that wants to talk about the portal as being like this, you just need to do a better job of like figuring out who the talent is. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like most of these guys that are coming over, we have limited film on, or they're playing inferior competition. So it's a complete guess.
Good game point out. The prompt was final thoughts on USC game.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this transition, but yeah, if we're talking about this game, I feel pretty good about Wisconsin making this a good game. I said my score prediction was we lose the game, but it's like 27-21 if I was going by my head. And if I was going by my heart, we win the game 28-24. And I think that's a game that we have to run the football really well. And I think that you have to get a quality game where Locke does not shoot himself in the foot or shoot the offense in the foot.
Yeah. Curtis, man, final thoughts.
So last time we played USC was 2015. We beat them. Does anybody remember the first team we played that season?
First team we played that season. Was it?
We were 9-4 that year.
The Bama year? Was it?
It was Alabama. We lost 35-17.
Yep.
I have never watched in my life our team get beat so bad as I did that game when we were at that game. And the reason was Derrick Henry averaged 11 yards a carry, and then TJ Yeldon averaged 8 yards.
No Derrick Henry.
They absolutely obliterated us. And it was Alabama could have beat us by 50 that game. Saban just didn't try. He just stopped. He just turned the hand of the ball.
He went mercy rule on us.
That's the worst game.
And that team, and so, oh no, that's not the worst game. That was the most I've ever seen us get physically handled.
Yeah,
I've never seen us
I
get
was at the
physically
Big Ten
handled.
championship game, 59-0. Okay, I was the only Wisconsin fan there at halftime. The Ohio State fans were going off on me. By halftime, they were like, "Man, I'm really sorry you came out here for this. I feel bad for you."
So
yeah,
what I'll say about that is watching that game. The difference is the physical domination that happened in the game that you're talking about, Curtis, for Bama, is they just ran it down our throat and just crippled us. The game where we lost to Ohio State, that was just that
team just didn't show up.
Yeah,
that team didn't show up.
They threw up. He was throwing up just balls that they were running under. Like they had faster receivers than our corners, and they just. It wasn't a physical game. It was just.
Melvin Gordon had like 70 yards in that game, and it was all in the fourth quarter.
Y'all are we're not talking about that game right before we played.
Yeah.
Who brought that up?
I still think that game. First of all,
there's a difference between physical and getting blown out, and I think that Bama was more physical.
So here's what I'm saying: we got physically manhandled versus Bama. We got beat.
Talent.
Ohio State, yes. That was talent, and also Gary Anderson had already quit at that point, so that team was basically toast anyway. So I'm wiping that shit from my memory. I don't even think about that. Here's my point: we got manhandled by Alabama. We beat USC at the end of the year. All right, there is no diff. There is. It's not even comparable. USC is nowhere near Alabama's in any way. If we play the same game, to JB's point, that we've played all season so far, ball control offense, run the ball, right? We have the ability to run the ball. Our offensive line is good. USC's defense is beat up. I don't think USC's defense is that good. USC, I don't think is that good. Here's a fun one for everybody. I don't think Miller Moss is that good. Again, watching him versus Michigan, he did a lot of really, really bad stuff. Not just that Michigan's good, that he was in his head making really bad decisions and really bad throws. You throw Locke on the back of his nameplate, you'd thought it was Braedyn Locke. I'm not even kidding. Watch the film again and tell me I'm wrong. Here's my point. We can beat this team. I'm not scared of them. They don't intimidate me. They're a Big Ten team that's going to be mid of the pack. And they're going to be like that until they figure out that they can't do what Lincoln Riley wants to do, how he's done it in the past in the Big Ten. It's not going to work. You could say that about Longo. That's a different discussion. All I'm saying is that if we run the ball, play ball control offense, we can move the ball on this team. We can score. I think Locke can keep us on time, on schedule. I think he does take more intermediate and deeper shots than both our other quarterbacks for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. Maybe just knows the offense better.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a
we can if we hit one or two of those, maybe we can, maybe we don't. Who knows? All I'm saying is I feel a lot better about this game than I did a couple weeks ago. I feel better about our run defense. Again, watching the film on Bama than I did a couple weeks ago. Is it great? No. Can it improve? Yeah. So I feel pretty good. That said, I still think that the difference in this game is USC's got elite wide receivers. I think the line will give them enough time that Miller Moss can make something happen in the backfield. They can hit someone on a scramble play, and that can be the difference in the game. I think USC beats us, 28-24, something like that.
Yeah. Where I'm at on this game, and Jake Heiberger says we win tomorrow. Daltrey said, thanks, Curtis, man. That feels great. James, our resident USC fan, says being in the Big Ten will change the talent level at USC. I should hope so, because you need more defensive linemen.
You better hope it does that.
Yeah, I should hope it does. What I would say is, I something I put in Discord is I want us to play a clean game. Because everything JB said, your rant is perfect, man. Like, not only is Bama better, but we didn't play clean. The fumbles, field goal, some time management stuff. Go out to USC and play clean, and we'll be in that game. Like, I'm super confident as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. Like, No silly turnovers. Braedyn Locke, pocket awareness, please throw the ball away. You cannot have a fumble in the pocket in our side of the field. Ches is going to get carries. He's not dropping out. Hold on to the ball. We do those things. We're in this game 100%. Like I feel
So
pretty
basic.
Listen, just keep this in mind. USC lost to a team that threw for 32 yards last week.
Didn't even try to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know that they're
That's
not throwing the
unbelievable,
football,
isn't
and you
it?
still can't stop the other team on offense. Like, it's not like the other team wasn't throwing because
Oh, we stopped them a few times, just not that 3 times they got 70-yard runs.
they were not throwing because they couldn't throw, and you still didn't play defense in a way that was capable of stopping a team that you knew what they were going to do.
I hope we win, because the therapy session with USC fans, if we don't win, is going to be painful on me personally.
No, because I think they're going to look bad enough that they're not going to be proud of their performance either. Honestly, if they win, I don't think they're going to like what they see.
I hope we win. All right, guys, we're at an hour 5. As always, appreciate every single person in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for helping build this. For everyone that dialed in, the people here, obviously JB, thank you for joining us.
Oh, Bo Dragon. Sorry, last thing. 100. It's like everybody forgot that Michigan got absolutely obliterated by Texas 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that game could have been worse. Like,
yeah, it could have been way worse.
Texas,
so
really just abused them in that game.
On Wisconsin, we'll finish there. Daltrey has it up. Let's go beat SC. Beat SC. Let's have a great win. Let's go.